Welcome back. Today we're going to be taking a look at Zeno, the new event farmable Nat 5. But before we get into that, I just wanted to run this by you. I'm thinking about doing a series in which I go about describing how to build a team for each dungeon. I'll discuss boss mechanics, which characters work really well, and what you want to look out for. If you like that idea, just let me know by commenting in the description below. But let's get into it. Alright, so let's take a look at Zeno's kit. For his skill 3, he has an AoE 70% chance to silence at max skill ups, as well as a bleed for 2 turns. His passive increases the damage of his skill 3 by 5% each time the enemy uses a non-attack skill. So this counts for Falconer Cleary's skill 3. This is healers, most supports. He's going to be a really hard counter to those. Side note, if he manages to get his skill 2 fully stacked, he has the highest defense in the game of any character at 1211 defense. Then his skill 1 is a stun for 35% at max skill ups. So the order I would take on his skill ups is I would skill up the Ancient Beast, and then I'd get to the effect chance on the skill 1, and then I would start working on his passive. Look, this is really good, but you don't get as much benefit from it because it only goes up by 3%. And largest percent is the last one. So 1/3 of the benefit you get from your skill ups is in the last one, which requires Epic Catalyst. So I would focus on the other two first. Alright, so now for Zeno's strengths. He has a massive amount of crowd control. He's really great in arena, especially versus healer, buffers, or anything that has an ability that doesn't hit you. He has a very high base speed, especially for a mage, so 115, and it's higher than every healer in the game. So this is really important because he has an AoE silence, and if you can get that first turn before the healers, so long as you don't get nuked by an assassin, which you shouldn't since you're pretty tanky, then you should be able to get off the skill 3 and silence the enemy's healers and supports before they actually get a turn to do bad stuff to you. So he has really good HP scale and damage. It's on, like at base, before he gets any stacks in his passive, it's on par with Cecilia, who's in the top 5 for HP scaling base damage. But once he gets his passive stacked, he is the #1 HP scaling damage character in the game. Yet his AoE swings for 1.7 attack approximately and 40% of his HP on an AoE. Like, that is insane, but you do have to get the passive stacked for you to get that off. He has really short cooldowns considering that his skill 3 is an AoE silence, and he's the easiest 6-star that you could ever ask for, as long as you're willing to farm him out. And if you do farm him out, you get an approximately 15% effectiveness memory imprint. So now for his weaknesses. He's kind of a catch-22 as a character because his attack scaling is pretty meh, as well as his base attack. 1039 base attack at 6-star awakening is pretty middle of the pack. It's not special. His multipliers for his attack, not special. He has a low base HP despite really good HP scaling. Like, he gets 5300 HP at 6-star max awakening, and the cap on HP is 7300 approximately, and that would be Ken, Ravi, and Dark Corvus. Also, he's only good versus enemies who regularly use support skills, which is healers and most support type characters. So this makes it so that he's not terribly effective at any of the dungeons. The only dungeon I really thought about using him in is the Golem, but he's at elemental disadvantage, so you could bring something else that would help you out a lot more. So for gear on Zeno, for your 4 sets, I would look for a lifesteal, counter, or speed set. So the reason for those 3 sets is lifesteal, you keep yourself healthy, you allow yourself to have time to scale. Lifesteal is especially effective on characters that have AoEs on short cooldowns. Counter, because you have CC on your skill 1, you'll likely be using him in arena. So if you get you a counter attack, you get to stun somebody, that's more time you have for him to scale his skill 2. And speed, because as I said, he has a high base speed. So running him on that set will allow you to get that turn before the enemy's healers, most likely. So for 2 sets, I recommend HP, hit, or crit. HP because scales on HP. Hit because you need to land your debuffs. And crit is if you have good enough subs that you can get the effectiveness and HP you need elsewhere. Because the majority of Zeno's damage comes from scaling his passive, you'll do better by going more into his tank stats, his HP, his effectiveness, his speed, effect resist, than you will by going into the crit rate. Though, again, that is a viable build path. So for artifacts on Zeno, out of the 5-star artifacts, I'd recommend Abyssal Crown. This gives you a 12 to 24% chance to stun enemies when you hit them. It's going to synergize really well with his AoE skill 3. For otherwise, I would go Etika Scepter, which gives him a chance to reduce his cooldowns at the start of each turn. His cooldowns are already low, so getting his skill 3 off faster is just phenomenal. You have more chances to silence the enemy. So next up, I'm going to recommend Synergies, which has a chance to inflict enemies with a random debuff. I think this is possibly the strongest of all of the artifacts on him, since he has the, like I said, the short AoE cooldown that already inflicts silence, and Synergies will never inflict the same debuff. There may be some debate about the next 2 artifacts that I'm going to recommend, but I would recommend Aelia Violin if you need a stripper, because Aelia Violin gives a mage a chance to dispel buffs after attacking the enemy. Also, Tuggel's Ancient Book is, I think, one of the least understood or valued artifacts, because it gives you souls at the start of a battle. So what this effectively means is that you can burn abilities at the very first turn. If you're doing content where you're playing manually, this is a really powerful artifact. For the 3-star artifacts, I would recommend Curse Compass, especially if you're doing arena. This will give him more effectiveness that first turn. Prophetic Candlestick is another good one, lets him cycle those cooldowns more quickly. Renon Memorandum, for the same reasons, you get more speed, so you get to cycle that skill 3 and pop that skill 3 more often. Really important for him. The last artifact that we're going to recommend for Zeno is Oath Key. This is always an option. Oath Key is always an option. It sucks not being able to use your character because it's at elemental disadvantage, but Oath Key can really bridge that gap for you. Alright, as far as characters that Zeno has really good synergy with, the only ones that really sprung to mind for him are Gerardo, because Gerardo is another anti-healer, anti-buffer character in the game, and with these 2 on your team, you'd have strips, you'd have anti-heals, you'd have silence. You got a really good lockdown there for anybody that's bringing buffers to a fight. Alright folks, so that was it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this character highlight. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe as usual. Also, if there's anything you want to see, please leave a comment in the description below. Let me know. But till next time, Max out.